Hey guys, Ravassa here, your resident Hispanglo-Saxon in the house. I figured I'd make this video because I get asked a lot how I got into voice acting and if I have any tips to get into voice acting. So I'm gonna answer all these awesome questions in this video and then I can just share the link to people all the time. If you're only interested in voice acting tips, I'm gonna figure out what minute you can skip to and I'll write it below so that you can just skip to that. And who cares how I got into voice acting? Many of you have heard me joke about the fact that I was a hyperactive child, and I was indeed very hyperactive. So since I was very young, my parents realized this, and I did a little solo in a Christmas concert when I was 4, and then when they were auditioning for the school musical, my mom thought, oh, Carolina would like to do that. She's got so much energy. So I auditioned, and sure enough, I got cast as Gretel in The Sound of Music when I was almost 5 years old, and that was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. So that's how I got into acting. I got bitten by the acting bug and continued to do theater in high school in Colombia, till I graduated, and then I knew that I wanted to study acting in college. It was the only thing that I was passionate about and that I felt that I was really good at. And even though everyone says you're not going to make money doing acting, my parents believed in my talent, thank God. So I studied good old theater in college. When I graduated, I continued my studies in New York City at a film and TV school where I learned the wonders of on-camera work, commercial work, and voiceover work. I never realized there was this big market for commercial work and voiceover work, but I'm really glad I discovered it studying at this film school, and I learned all about proper enunciation and pronunciation and how to sell a brand. So when I graduated, I started doing voice work for a lot of Spanish stuff. It was the perfect time in New York City where they still needed Spanish talent that spoke crisp and clear Spanish, and Colombian Spanish is that. So I was doing what I'd consider relatively boring voiceover work, selling brands, but it helped pay the bills. So as actors, we do that because that's how you make it happen. I'd always wanted to do cartoons because I love doing this one kid voice that I do, but I simply wasn't getting those auditions because I didn't realize they were all in Los Angeles. So in New York, I was pursuing film and TV acting, theater, voiceover work in PSAs, industrials, ESL videos, all sorts of crazy things like that. One time I spent 7 hours in one day recording medical jargon for this hospital in English and in Spanish. And it was really exhausting, but again, it was a paycheck, so I did it. I got to work on a little cartoon here and there, but they were indie cartoons and they weren't a lot of them. They were really exciting, but it wasn't as much as I'd like. I had also worked in video games in New York City because they needed Brazilian Portuguese speakers for Max Payne 3. So I auditioned for that, and I got to do motion capture for them, which is really fun and exciting. And then Rockstar Games called me again for GTA 5 because they needed a Colombian Spanish speaker for Taliana Martinez. So that was also super exciting. And then I got to do a bunch of motion capture for random characters for GTA 5 and then Red Dead Redemption 2. So all of that stuff was really cool, and I'm incredibly grateful to them because I learned all about mocap or PCAP, motion capture, performance capture. And in between GTA 5 and Red Dead, I got an audition for this project, this character they called Noche, and it was Overwatch. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know who Sombra was, but I auditioned, and 2 months later I started recording for her. So it was a really exciting process, but I didn't understand how big Overwatch was, which is almost better because then I didn't freak out thinking about it or expect too much from it, you know? Now, let me remind you that when I auditioned for Overwatch, I had been working for a consecutive 10 years in New York City, working my butt off, waiting tables, doing catering, babysitting, flower arranging, you name it, anything to pay the bills, plus, non-paid theater gigs in tiny basements. I did, like I said, industrials and PSAs, which are not fun. Here and there, I got some awesome TV roles like Mr. Robot and The Affair, but, for the most part, I was just hustling. So I'd like to say that Overwatch is like in the hundreds of the auditions that I did, and it was the one that really stuck because Sombra just happened to fit my voice and the sarcasm and all of that good stuff. So all that hard work paid off because, Blizzard liked it, and I was incredibly excited to play a part in this awesome game. Eventually I moved to LA and I realized all the voice work is here. But just because I had Overwatch didn't mean I was gonna start booking all these gigs. I still audition for tons of video games all the time. Most of the time we don't book them. I audition for tons and tons of cartoons. I wish I booked them all, but that's not the case. And I still took acting classes here. I took a voiceover class with Charlie Adler to learn how to expand my characters and how to layer on accents or funny little things that a character could do. So the journey never stops. Even though we're booking things professionally, we're still taking classes and learning from the rest. Mess with the best and learn from the rest. I walked into that one. So that's basically the voiceover journey. I'd also auditioned for Riot Games a ton, and I finally maybe got to work on Valorant. Check out my IMDb to see who I might be. So let's move on to the tips section. First of all, I am not the Bible on how to get voiceover work. If you're watching this video and you're on my YouTube channel, here we are. So first of all, I'm gonna recommend some websites that go way more into detail than I'm going into now. And these guys have so much more experience than I do, and I look up to them like crazy. So check them out. The voice of Hammond on Overwatch is our beloved D. Bradley Baker. He created a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Check that out, peruse it, follow all the awesome steps to learn more about how you can get into it. Steve Bloom is an incredibly talented voice actor. Check out his website, bloomvoxstudios.com. He can give you way more tips than I can, and he also teaches classes, which is amazing. Sometimes we do have to invest in our careers if it's something we really want to do, so maybe you gotta put some money down and take a really amazing class. Crispin Freeman is our Winston. He has a website also that is called voiceactingmastery.com. You can check out other amazing tips there on how to get into voice acting. Another awesome website that both Anjali and I have been on is vobuzzweekly.com. Chuck and Stacy interview a bunch of voice actors and get into the nitty-gritty of how they got into their career, the ups and downs, how much we suffer sometimes before we get that right role or even start breaking into the business. Highly recommended so that you can learn the journey and path of other voice actors. Also, a lot of you guys are more advanced, so you have more questions on how to create a demo or where to buy microphones or how to set up a booth. I think that the websites I gave you have that information way more clearly stated than I'll ever give you. Google is a great tool. Google local things. Is there a local recording studio that you can take a class at? Is there a regular acting class that you could join? First of all, we need to flex these muscles and see, what we can do. I can tell you what I do in LA or what I used to do in New York, but if you live in Oklahoma, you need to find what works there. So definitely try and take a class. I know a ton of you do really good impressions, but impressions will only get us so far. So let's move on and see what else you can do. You need to expand your characters, right? If you can't afford a class just yet, practice voices at home. You can watch cartoons, you can watch video games, and instead of just imitating the characters that you hear, create your own character. Look at some random character and just think of how they could sound in your voice. Add a layer, add a lisp, add an accent. There's so many ways to create stuff. I watch a ton of cartoons and I'll do my version of that character and it's totally different to that person. So I feel like that's how we expand, If you've already taken classes and have a ton of characters, Google local auditions. There are so many studios that work locally that need that kind of work. Start creating your own work. Find friends that do animation. Maybe you can create a 1-minute little animated story that's super cool and you share it on social media. I think that's a really great way to create. Filmmakers also ask me what advice I can give them, and I think right now we just need to create our own work. We're at home right now during quarantine. Use your iPhones, start shooting something little, write a tiny script, do your characters in video. There's just so many ways that you can create from your home without spending any money so that you work on your skills. Practice makes perfect. That's why we keep working at it. For the filmmakers out there, that's why I started Hispanglo Saxon. I wanted to shoot stuff. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to do something on my own that didn't involve somebody else giving me a job. And I made it with no money, but that's the point. You can use your iPhone and a few borrowed wigs and some random makeup and make up some characters. If you want to do voice work, there are so many ways that you can create your own things at home without having to worry yet about a budget. And have fun with it. Sometimes voice acting isn't going to be all of our careers. Maybe it's something that we just screw around with friends and we enjoy it. keep doing it if it makes you happy. Having fun with friends is the best thing to do. Sometimes making a living out of it is really hard, so maybe that's not what you're gonna do. But if you enjoy it, keep taking class, keep studying, talk to myself all the time at home. I think that's a way to, you know, get the creative juices flowing. Yes, I'm probably crazy. I have 9 characters living with me in my house, so you might question my sanity, but they make me happy, and I think that's really important. Sometimes we don't need to invest in really, really expensive microphones just yet because you're starting off, so, you know, there's other things to invest in. Check out the websites again, and break legs. I hope this video helped you guys. If you have any questions, I'll be looking out for comments on this video. I hope it's inspired you, but remember, you can do a lot with very little, and with friends and creative people online, so definitely use those resources, and I wish you the best of luck. Go hack the voiceover.